Top 5 Bizarre American Urban Legends. Every state has its own urban legend. Many of these superstitious tales came about during a period of limited scientific inquiry. A figure caught in someone's peripheral vision became something sinister and shadowy. The guttural noise of a feral animal turned into the battle cry of an unknowable monster. We instinctively feared what we could not explain, and our overactive imaginations did the rest. Many urban legends remain popular to this day. While such tales are often told with a wink and a smile, some continue to believe them. From the Mothman of West Virginia to the Jersey Devil, so-called cryptozoologists remain ever watchful. So let us explore just some of these weird and wacky urban legends. 5. The Dark Watchers, California. Legend tells of shadowy figures that stalk the Santa Lucia Mountains of Monterey County, California. Spanish conquistadors, who first explored the region in 1602, referred to these otherworldly creatures as the Dark Watchers, Los Vigilantes Oscuros. The late Thomas Steinbeck, son of the famous writer John Steinbeck, spoke about the Dark Watchers at length. In the end, he trusted his friend, artist Benjamin Brode. The particulars of the account had been told to Thomas as a child and authenticated by such credible sources as his grandmother, Olive Hamilton, and Billy Post, descendant of El Sur Grand Ranchers, Brode claimed. Thomas' fascination with Dark Watchers ran in the family.
John Steinbeck mentioned the mysterious entities in the Long Valley, a collection of short stories published in 1938.
Flight tells the tale of Pep, a young teen who goes on the run after stabbing a local townsman. Pep encounters the Watchers while fleeing to the mountains. From the tale, no one knew who the Watchers were, nor where they lived, but it was better to ignore them and never show interest in them. They did not bother one who stayed on the trail and minded his own business. John Steinbeck praised Thomas while working as a ranch hand in the mountain region of Big Sur. The writer's understanding of the Dark Watchers mirrored that of local tales. The humanoid figures usually surface either in the mornings or evenings, and they immediately disappear like fog when somebody looks directly at them. Thomas made contact with local residents Billy and Lucy Post, descendants of El Sur Grand Ranchers. Post claims the ranchers exhumed the remains of a young girl in the 1920s. After the grave's desecration, the Dark Watchers disappeared, and the locals were struck by misfortune. According to the Post family, luck was only restored after the ranchers returned the girl to her original resting place. 4. The Ship of Death, Wyoming. In the fall of 1862, a United States Army Indian scout named Leon Weber stood at the edge of the North Platte River in Wyoming. The animal trapper was building a log cabin, 6 miles from the Fort Laramie military outpost. Suddenly, a thick fog rolled in across the river. The fog began to take shape, gradually transforming into an ancient ship. The frost-covered sails glistened in the evening light. Weber was transfixed. There on the deck, the phantom crewmen surrounded a lifeless, young woman. A horrifying realization dawned upon the trapper. The ship suddenly veered over to my side of the river and I recognized the corpse of that of Margaret Stanley, my best girlfriend. We were to have been married early the following spring. "Margie!" I shouted, preparing to descend to the water. As Weber plunged into the misty waters, the ship vanished. He remained at the river until dusk, patiently waiting for any signs of Margaret. But the ship never returned. Weber made his way back to the Stanley residence a month later to discover that his beloved had died. Using reports from the Cheyenne Bureau of Psychological Research, the paranormal investigation magazine Fate established that the ship was sighted on 2 other occasions. A local rancher claims he saw the ship resurface near the town of Casper in 1887. At the behest of the vessel's captain, the crewmen revealed the corpse of the rancher's wife, her face disfigured and burned. The rancher returned home to find the scorched remains of his wife. She died while attempting to flee a house fire. 3. Buck's Cursed Tomb, Maine. In 1763, Colonel Jonathan Buck founded a small settlement nestled along the Penobscot River in Maine. While the colonel has a storied past, he is often best remembered for something he never actually did. Bizarre stories started to spread soon after Buck's death. In 1852, his grandchildren placed a monument close to his grave. But an unusual shape, which looked vaguely reminiscent of a woman's light, appeared in the rock. Rumors spread that Colonel Buck had previously sentenced a witch to death. Before her death, the witch placed a curse on Buck and said his headstone would forever remind the world of his ill deeds. But listen, upon that stone the imprint of my feet will appear, and for all time, long after you and your accursed race have perished from the earth, will the people from far and wide know that you murdered a woman. Remember well, Jonathan Buck, remember well. In reality, the colonel killed no such person. He was born decades after the hysteria of the witch trials. As Justice of the Peace, he did not have the jurisdiction to authorize executions. And the strange shape is likely the result of simple weathering. 2. The Tombstone Thunderbird, Arizona. The legend of the Tombstone Thunderbird started with a small Arizona newspaper. In April 1890, the Tombstone Weekly Epitaph published the escapades of two gun-toting ranchers. The pair allegedly encountered an enormous winged monster while trekking across a desert just east of the former mining town of Tombstone. The men quickly grabbed their Winchester rifles and gave chase on horseback. After several miles, the ranchers caught up with the beast and killed it. Upon closer inspection, it was said to look like an alligator with wings. Joshua Hawley, writer of the legend of the Tombstone Thunderbird, remains skeptical. He believes the story was fabricated in response to the town's economic downturn. Tombstone was a dusty little town with very few people left inside, so having good news articles to write became more of a challenge, he explained. More recently, paranormal investigators claim they have received dozens of reports of Thunderbird sightings across the Pacific coast and Midwest. It has been suggested that these witnesses were merely observing large birds that are already known to wildlife experts. Some describe the Thunderbird as a pterodactyl-like animal, which could match the appearance of the great blue heron. The Tombstone Weekly's original tale, somewhat implausibly, claimed the Thunderbird had a 160 feet long wingspan and eyes as large as a dinner plate. According to Hawley, one of the ranchers eventually came forward and said the paper had published a misleading story. They never shot it down, Hawley said. They never killed it. And it flew away. 1. Spook Hill, Maryland. In 1997, a group of amateur filmmakers began filming the Blair Witch Project in Maryland. The small village of Burkittsville, which has a population of less than 200 people, played host to the unsettling events. Most of the scenes were actually filmed in other parts of Maryland. But that did not stop legions of giddy teenagers from descending upon the surrounding woods, shaky cams at the ready. Even though the Blair Witch is entirely fictitious, Burkittsville has another star attraction, Spook Hill. According to local legend, Spook Hill is haunted by the spirits of dead Civil War soldiers. In 1862, forces under the command of Robert Levy assaulted Maryland. The bulk of the Confederate forces attacked western Maryland, while a small detachment was ordered to stall the Union's reinforcements from the east. After a 3-hour-long battle, the Confederates retreated. Heavy losses were suffered on both sides and thousands more were injured. That story was Spook Hill, a short stretch of road along Gapland Road in Burkittsville. When a ball is placed on the road's surface, it appears to roll up the incline. Even a car put in neutral will slowly roll up Spook Hill, as if defying the laws of gravity. Some believe the spirits of the dead soldiers are pulling the objects back towards the village. In reality, Spook Hill is just an optical illusion. The objects are actually rolling downhill, not uphill. The driver is made to think they are rolling upwards, as they cannot see the level horizon around them. The surrounding trees and landscape are often tilted at a steeper angle relative to the road. This, combined with the fact that humans are terrible at estimating the angle of slopes, creates a mind-bending effect. Our brains essentially make up a new horizon, because the surrounding landmarks are positioned in a way that we are not used to seeing. Thank you very much for listening. Alice is with you.